Over a year ago, I moved from Germany to Jordan to support the work of our emergency team for Syrian refugees. During this time, the crisis in the Middle East has further deteriorated. 13 million people are in desperate need of humanitarian assistance. More than 11 million people have fled their homes and remain displaced within Syria or in neighboring countries. At the same time, levels of international support and funding are going down. The numbers are staggering, and many feel that this biggest humanitarian crisis of our times is simply unfathomable. It seems too complex and political, they say. No one can be sure of who the good guys and the bad guys are. But for me, when I leave Jordan in a few days, the Syria crisis will not be something too complex or too political. For me, this crisis really is about the people I came to meet throughout the last year. It is about the men, women, and children who continue to fight a bitter, daily struggle to survive in exile. I will remember women like the 24-year-old Sahab, who lives in a tent outside Jordan's capital, Amman. She's expecting her second child and wishes for nothing more but to raise her children in a place that she can call home. I have seen mothers like Reem cry ceaselessly because they had to bury their children in the desert sand while on the run. And I met children whose fathers had hung themselves in exile because they could not bear their family's suffering anymore. I have seen adult men like Dia break down in tears because in just one single day they lost what they had worked for their entire lives. His belongings and his house have been bombed to dust, and all that remains is rubble and the painful memories of a life put to halt. And I have heard the sound of many parents' hearts breaking because they have to send their children to work on the streets instead of registering them in a school. I have become friends with young Syrians who had their whole future ahead of them, but whose lives are now on hold indefinitely while they live as refugees. Young women like Maram, who cannot continue her studies of economy, or young lawyers like Hadi, who cannot work in Jordan and does not know how to earn the money for next month's rent. When I leave Jordan, I will remember refugee girls like Mara, who has lost her love. She's part of an entire generation of children who cannot go to school anymore. Children who are too calm for their age. They don't play and banter with each other. Instead, they sit motionlessly against the cold wall, their eyes seemingly fixing a spot in the room, something to hold on to structure the chaos that surrounds them. They have fled Syria, but the memories of war and the fear for loved ones back home are a constant companion. I never knew that you can actually see that. It is grey and covers people like a coat of steel. Behind the statistics, there are refugees, real people, each and every one with their own story. Mothers, fathers, grandparents, daughters, sons, couples and siblings. Refugees who had a good life and are now living in rundown apartments, in empty buildings, or in makeshift tents constructed from cardboard and tarps. But there is another story to tell about this crisis. As much suffering as I have seen, there also remains unwavering strength and resilience. I have met mothers like Nada who are fighting for their girls to go to school. Couples like Ziad and Jur who live in a tented settlement and invite their refugee neighbors to share memories with them at night, to laugh and cry together. I worked with Syrian refugees who volunteer in CARE's urban centers. They get up every morning to help fellow refugees with information and an open ear for their sorrows. In March, I joined a team of care staffers and Syrian volunteers for the famous Dead to Red Marathon in Jordan. We ran 242 kilometers from the Dead Sea to the Red Sea, without sleeping, through sand and darkness through the desert. None of us was particularly sporty, so hardly anyone believed we would actually be able to make it in the allocated 24 hours. But against all odds, we made it. Our team reached the finish line in 22 hours and 23 minutes, and we raised more than 25,000 US dollars for CARE's emergency work for Syrian refugees. I'm leaving Jordan shortly before Christmas. More than anything, this much loved holiday to me is a feeling, one of gratitude, of belonging, of pausing for a moment. This year, my wish is that we remind ourselves of the bond of humanity that connects us all. The humanity that remains the strongest medicine against despair and hopelessness. I wish for us, the world, to not forget the plight of Syrian refugees, and to reach into our hearts and pockets to support their lives. Over the past month, I have seen and felt a humanitarian catastrophe happening around me. By telling their stories, I try to give a voice and a face to Syrian refugees and contribute just a little so that their suffering will not be forgotten. I cannot count the occasions on which I so dearly wished that I could spread the message even louder and further. I know that my colleagues in the region and around the world will not give up, despite all the challenges. I know that they will keep shouting as loud as possible to make sure that the people affected by this crisis do not disappear behind the numbers. We owe it to the millions of Syrians who are in desperate need of support to make it through the next